Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Andy Joynt, head brewer at Big Grove. Really excited today. I've got a special guest joining us. Wright Thompson is a senior writer at ESPN.com and ESPN the magazine, and he's here to talk about a very cool project. Welcome, Wright.
Hey man, what a pleasure to be here. I wish I was sitting in your bar right now, but this will have to do.
I know we shipped you some beer not too long ago, but it sounds like you've exhausted the supply. So
I ran through that pretty quickly. With the Easy Eddie and the Iowa City Lager were gone. I'm almost embarrassed at how fast those were gone. Uh, the no, I mean, there's one oatmeal stout hanging around, but it won't last tonight, I assure you. So.
that's kind of my mission, is to make sure that you like them enough to drink a couple in a sitting. So,
Oh no, that is well mission accomplished, sir. Because we have sat around and watched football and just crushed them the other day. It was awesome. My friends were like, "Where did you get this?" And I'm like, well, "I'm super important now. I don't know, but I have connections." So, uh,
yeah. So you came to Iowa City and hung out with us at Big Grove last year, kind of talking about a book you had released recently, the Cost of These Dreams, which is a great read. How did Iowa City treat you?
oh man, I love Iowa City. I mean, so a little bit just the backstory is I'd never been to Iowa City, and I was writing a story for ESPN magazine about Dan Gable, and so I went and spent a couple of days with the Gables out at their farm right outside of town, which is like being on the set of Rocky Four. I mean, I expected Sylvester Stallone to come, punch that meat, like, uh, and so, I feel like when your first introduction to Iowa City is sitting in the sauna with Dan Gable, like somehow you're a made man,
Especially.
and so I loved it. I loved George's. I loved Pagliai's pizza. I, you know, if you've never drank your way through Iowa City with the Gable daughters, then you really haven't lived. I mean, you know, 100% the four Gable daughters would win a fight against the starting 11 of the Hawkeyes defense.
I
I mean,
believe.
100%. I'd fight Dan before I'd fight those four girls, women. I mean, they're not to be messed with. So like, I just fell in love with Iowa City, and I had this book tour coming out, and I mean, the dirty little secret is a book tour is really just an excuse to get someone else to pay for you to go to places you like. And I wasn't, you're not there reporting a story, so you can just sort of romp through places. And so I wanted to do that. Prairie Lights is one of the most important and great independent bookstores in the country. And so, I mean, that's a bucket list bookstore for people. You want to do an event at Square Books in Oxford, Mississippi. You want to do an event at City Lights in San Francisco. You want to do an event at the Strand in New York City, and you want to do an event at Prairie Lights. And so the fact that, I could get together with you guys and with Nate, and I mean, that's the biggest crowd we had. I mean, I sold more books in Iowa City than I did at the Clarksdale Public Library in my hometown. I mean, it was, the people at Penguin were like blown away. They were like, you sold a lot of books in Iowa City. I'm like, well, I took Dan Gable.
Yeah, that Dan joined you up on stage there. That was really cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'd have sold slightly less books if I'd have brought Jesus. I mean, I was like, you don't understand. I brought Dan Gable to a place in Iowa, so I was hoping to be able to do this in person because I had such a good time at Big Grove, and we set up there, and
Yeah,
that was
and we love using our space for things like that. It's kind of, we're always trying to be a big part of the community. And so when we can have really cool events like that, where we can bring you in and get Dan Gable up there and have you guys kind of chat to a bunch of people. I mean, it's great use of our space and we love it. But obviously things are a little different this year. So we're having to take some different approaches, but I think we've got a super cool event coming down here with your new book release.
well, what we're doing is, I mean, as a lot of people know, I mean, I see that bottle of Old Rip next to you. That's good whiskey. Uh, we are so Pappy Van Winkle is almost impossible to find, and if you do find it, you almost have to be like a Wall Street banker because the prices are so jacked up. So I managed, work cutting deals with the devil, et cetera. I have 9 bottles of this stuff to give away. And so I'm doing 3 events. I'm doing one in Oxford, one in Seattle. They're all virtual, but a bookstore in Oxford, a bookstore in Seattle. And I just was adamant that one of them be at Prairie Lights, and we, do this again, because, it was just, out there selling a book, you never forget the people who really come through. And I just was adamant that we do one of these events in Iowa City. And so we are raffling off 3 bottles of Pappy. The 3 bottles for Iowa City, there's a bottle of Old Rip, there's a bottle of 15-year-old, and there's a bottle of 20-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I mean, this stuff is impossible to find. Julian and I are going to take questions and talk about whiskey. You can ask him anything you want about his grandfather, Pappy, about how the stuff's made, about why it's so hard to get. You can grill him on anything you want. I love to see him in the hot seat. You get, and then we're making a donation to the Lee Initiative. It's a restaurant workers relief fund. I mean, look, you guys see, your staff and how the people who make the places we love go have really struggled during coronavirus, especially that shutdown. I know you guys had one and were able to come back. I mean, there are a lot of places that are still trying to figure that out. And so this is a restaurant relief fund. I mean, I just wanted to, if we're out there selling books, making money, I did want to try to do something. I've been joking. I'm balancing my karma. I've done so much bad shit.
I think it's shaping up to be a lot of fun. What Nate Kaeding, former Hawkeye, Nate Kaeding is going to host, and then the bulk of the conversation will be between you and Julian. And yeah, I'm really curious to hear kind of what you guys get into and what Julian has to say.
I mean, it's really interesting. And given your job, one day Julian and I will come back where the 3 of us can sit around and really talk for a long time, because I think you guys would be kindred spirits. I mean, Julian has around Kentucky is very famous for having an incredible palate. And I mean, that's sort of his stock in trade. The thing he is expert at that they don't really do much anymore, but he is expert at blending whiskeys, at, being able to taste this barrel and this barrel and this barrel, and then predict what they will be like in 10, 12, and 15 years. I mean, it's as you know, creating whiskey or beer, it's a science for sure, but it's also an act of imagination. It is, what is this going to be like at the end of some road when someone is sitting there with it in their glass? And so I love to hear him get really in the weeds on process. And
that's something where beer and whiskey differ a lot, is usually when I'm making a new recipe and kind of putting that together, there's some imagination to that as to what that product's going to turn out to be. But I get feedback usually within a couple of days, and then certainly within a couple of weeks. And so trying to draw that out into years or decades is just insane to me. But
like, for instance, I was with him a couple of weeks ago when he got the email telling him how much whiskey they were going to have this year to put in bottles, because you put 53 gallons of whiskey in a barrel, but 53 gallons doesn't come out. I mean, if it sits there for 20 years, usually they get 6 gallons out. The rest evaporates. And if there's a tiny hairline crack in a barrel, I mean, there's nothing. So this year, the 20 and 23-year-old releases are really limited, because when they opened up those barrels, a bunch of them were empty.
Oh, man.
And you just think, it's just unbelievable. I mean, and so, you think you lose 47 out of 55 gallons to evaporation. It really is nerve-wracking. And by the way, you'll appreciate this, you're paying taxes on the 53 gallons.
Oh.
Not on the 6 you're getting out.
Maybe, are you sure somebody didn't get in there and kind of take some samples off the barrel?
It was me. I did
it. Yeah, that'd be a disappointing day to open up a barrel and find nothing in there.
Oh, just crushing. Just be like, oh.
I think, I don't know, the energy around the Pappy whiskeys is just incredible. It's a lot of fun. This bottle I've had for several years now, And the way I got it, I had forgotten about it. I was talking to one of the Hy-Vee store managers, liquor store managers, and he had waiting lists going for special releases like that. And so I was like, oh yeah, put me on the list, you know? And I forgot about it. And I think it was a year and a half or almost 2 years later, Glenn called me. He's like, hey, you still want that bottle of Pappy? I'm like, yeah.
Yes, that's a hard yes.
Yeah, but that was a nice little surprise for me. But yeah, now I just hold on to it, and I break it out for special occasions, like high quality Iowa football wins and that sort of thing.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point that the book really gets into is, to me, the beautiful thing about really finely crafted whiskey or finely crafted beer is that sharing it with someone is such an act of community. You know, I mean, one of the things I was on the Dan Patrick show a couple of months ago, and we're talking about a bunch of stuff, and the book came up, and one of the things I just sort of said off the top of my head was, hey, send me an email, show me you pre-ordered the book, and tell me who you would drink a bottle of Pappy with and why. And whichever one is most moving, I'll send you a bottle.
That's awesome.
And I just wasn't prepared for the stories that came through. I mean, like really emotional stuff. And actually, it's funny. I just saw the email. The bottle is being sent today to the guy, and it's a retired Marine officer. Don't call him a former Marine. I've done that in print. They do not like that. That email blew up when you're like, no. So a retired Marine officer wanted to drink it with the father of one of his soldiers who was killed in Afghanistan. And like, that's what a really great bottle of whiskey is. I mean, it is a way, especially frankly for men, to articulate something that maybe they're having trouble putting into words. And so, you know, Ted Hubbard is going to go drink this bottle with Seth Sharp's dad. And that's like, you know, if we don't do anything else with the book, that makes the whole process worth it. Just because, like, and by the way, I picked him. There were 10 things like that. I mean, it was really difficult. Like, I sort of just thought it was going to be easy. And one night, my wife and I sat around reading these emails, like trying to figure out, like, who am I going to give this damn thing to? And so, you know, the energy around a bottle of Pappy that you just referenced, while yes, it can be sort of like a status symbol thing, it also is a way for, like, to celebrate a big Iowa football win, or if you have a special guest in town or a friend you haven't seen in a long time, it is a way to show them how you feel about them or this moment. And I find that really cool.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, we certainly at Big Grove, it's part of our celebration when we have a big win, you know, whether it's for our beer or an event or something, we certainly get into the good whiskey for that. And yeah.
Well, I remember. I was involved in some of those shenanigans.
Yeah, you guys made the full tour of downtown Iowa City, didn't you? I mean, you saw it.
Oh, it was, I mean, the wheels totally came off. I mean, it was like, you know, I think Gable's sons-in-law might have been wrestling. You know,
I think that's allowed. I think if you're related to a Gable, I think you can pull that off.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just hilarious. I mean, I think I had 12 cheeseburgers at George's. You know, because you got to feed yourself, and then you got to feed the drunk, and then you got to feed the hangover. So there were multiple meals involved.
George's is key for that.
I limped out of Iowa City. That was a long plane ride.
Yeah. So on it's November 12th is the date that this is taking place. It's 8 o'clock start. And it's going to be you. It'll be Julian Van Winkle, and then hosted by Nate Kaeding. What is Julian? He's kind of a celebrity. I mean, he draws some attention when he shows up places. Is that what I've gathered?
Especially, you know, in like bourbon bars. I mean, I love going in a place that serves bourbon with Julian or his son Preston. You know, it's like being in Memphis with Elvis or something. I mean, it's really funny when you run into sort of a bartender who thinks they know everything. because then you're like, oh, well, this is Julian Van Winkle right here. So that's fun. That appeals to my inner jerk. But man, it's fun going places with him, especially whiskey places.
I'm excited. I think I'm going to buy a couple copies of the book. Is there a limit? Can I buy like 5 copies of the book and get, as many
No,
raffles?
man. And by the way, no, there isn't. I mean, people have been buying them 10 at a time because like your odds are so good. The events are capped at 2,500. So you have a 1 in 812 chance to win. So every ticket ups your odds. And people are, it's pretty funny. I was just on the phone with the bookstore in Oxford, and they were like, man, people are buying them 10 at a time.
No kidding.
Yeah, so which I love. I mean, my God, my daughter needs new shoes. Buy them 20 at a time.
Well, yeah, I saw we've got all the information is linked on the Big Grove website. You can get to the event, and then also if you go to prairielights.com, it's linked there as well. Again, I believe it's $40, and you get a copy of the book. You get your entry in the raffle for one of 3 bottles of Pappy Van Winkle, and then $10 of that is going to the Leaf Initiative Restaurant Relief Fund.
Yes.
So it's just a really cool program you guys have put together. I'm super excited for it.
Look, I really appreciate you not only hosting it, but facilitating so much of it and making it happen. And I promise you the next thing that comes out, we will do this in person. And I look forward to getting back to Iowa City, both to the Gable Sauna and to Big Grove. So I certainly look forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to get you and Julian and maybe Dan Gable in a room and open some beers and some whiskey for sure.
That'd be fun. I think Dan would still be the alpha in the room.
I imagine.
Look, I thank you guys so much, and I look forward to virtually being with you again on November 12th.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wright.